Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the very delicate messaging operation that Rishi Sunak needs to embark upon now in order to maintain control for an ultimate election, if that is indeed what he wants. Last night he ruled out a summer election. It was not a passing remark, it was a knee-jerk reaction because he needs different people to believe different things, but the messaging is leaking everywhere. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So last night, I see on Twitter it reports Rishi Sunak's ruling out a summer general election. Now that sounds like an odd thing to do because all he's really doing is saying the election won't be from late June to late September. But of course he could still change his mind like Theresa May did in 2017. So why did he do it? What is he really doing? What is he ruling in and out in terms of a general election? He could call a general election any day now. He could call it today. The uncrested elector could come out this afternoon. He can call it whenever he likes while he's still the Prime Minister. And you think to yourself, so what has he ruled out? He's ruled out May the 2nd, but he hasn't ruled out the other 30 days in May, although we sort of suspect he'll still call it for a Thursday. Now ruling out for summer means he's ruled out from basically the 21st of June to the 21st of September. So he hasn't ruled out most of May and he hasn't ruled out most of June. What's the point in this sort of messaging? You know, why, if he's trying to rule out an election in the next few months, if he's trying to say, look, the election's not for at least half a year, why not just say so? Why not just say that? Well, I think two reasons. The first is that Rishi Sunak is really struggling to be taken seriously. Yesterday, Keir Starmer helped launch Sadiq Khan's formal mayoral election campaign. Now, as is typical these days, whenever Labour are launching a campaign or making a major speech, Rishi Sunak announces a major speech of his own. And the reason he does that is it's to knock off Labour's speech, or in this case campaign, off the main headlines. It's really very childish. It's dead against convention. You're not supposed to do it, by the way. You're supposed to leave room for each other to make these major announcements. But Rishi Sunak, you know, is just trying to leverage every dirty advantage, right? But Sunak sort of said to journalists, I've got this major economic speech. You need to come and listen to me. And his speech did not get much reporting on. You may not even know it happened. And that is because apparently it was so pointless. Either the speech contained nothing new. I gather it didn't contain anything new. Or just that journalists can't be bothered taking anything he says on policy seriously anymore. Because he'll announce a policy, oh yeah, I'm totally committed to HS2. Next day, oh yeah, we're scrapping it. You know, look at the political news sections of major media outlets. You will struggle to find anything on his speech on apprenticeships from yesterday. Sunak is visibly struggling for relevance, which is not ideal when you're the head of government. You know, the media just couldn't be bothered. Sunak told them, major economic speech. They went along and went, okay, you know, the content's not matching the hype here. They got bored. The only reporting on the speech I've seen is how pointless it was. But the second reason specifically for coming out with this statement on the ruling out a summer election is a bit of a backlash to one of his allies saying that if MPs move to replace him, the Prime Minister can just call an election. I did a video yesterday on how MPs would be able to do nothing at all to stop him. But the concept nonetheless went down like a lead balloon. So Sunak came out to suggest that he wouldn't. He needs to pour water on this idea, hence ending up ruling out a summer election. And I think we're going to see a lot of chaotic knee-jerk messaging now, more so than usual. And this is because Sunak needs different people to believe fundamentally different things, mutually exclusive things. I think Sunak is desperately chasing his India trade deal. I think if he'd got agreement last week, we'd be getting the announcement this week for the general election. We may have already had it. But he didn't get it. He didn't get it last week. He now knows that because of the India general election, Modi's attention's diverted elsewhere. He knows he can't possibly get agreement now until late summer at least. So I think, yes, I can believe he would want to delay the election as long as it takes to get that India trade deal, or until he completely runs out of time. And because he may now want that election to be late, he needs the public to believe that the election will be late in order that they don't see him as hiding from the ballot box. He can't have the public expecting a spring or summer election, because when it doesn't come, it looks like he backed out of it. However, suggesting that the election could be 7, 8, even 9 months away, that is a green light to Tory rebels. It's telling them, oh, there is time to replace Sunak before the election, because that's what Sunak's allies and those who are trying to argue against a rebellion are saying. There isn't time. There isn't time. You don't have time. Ben Wallace was saying it. Jacob Rees-Mogg's been saying it. He's no fan of Sunak's. They were saying you don't have time. Well, by Sunak saying actually the election's like 8 months away or something, they're thinking, yeah, we do have time. We had time in 2019. We got rid of Theresa May in May, and we won an election in December. So, and right now, think about what MPs have got to do at the moment in Parliament. There's like nothing. There's hardly any legislation passing through Parliament. I looked at the House of Commons business today. There's nothing on. There's like one tiny bit of legislation that most people won't turn up for. There's like a 10-minute ruling thing. There's nothing on. There's no House of Commons business on at all. Hardly anything going on. So there's not many important debates. There's hardly any votes to turn up for. That leaves a lot of time on MPs' hands. Now, some of them may just spend more of it in their constituencies, trying to persuade voters to back them, although I imagine that's quite an unpleasant affair for many of them these days. Some aren't even standing in the next election, so they can't be bothered. But there might be a day when there is a vote in Parliament. So they have to be in Westminster for that. But what about the rest of the day? It's basically leaving MPs with a lot of time on their hands. And, you know, if they live 200 miles away, their constituency is 200 miles away, what do you expect them to get up to in London? They're just going to get together, aren't they? They're going to talk about things, aren't they? And what they're going to talk about, the state of the party, the election polling. These discussions are inevitably going to lead them to working out, you know, what they should do to improve things, given the very obvious lack of a plan from their leader to do so. Basically, by having no legislative agenda, no work for MPs to do while they're in London, Sunak is inviting his MPs to spend lots of time working out how to get rid of him. So although he wants the public to believe the election is a long way off, he'd really rather his MPs think that it could be called any day now, in order to focus their attention on presenting a united front for the campaign. Because at the moment, if Conservative MPs believe that one of the things they can do to help themselves out is replace the leader, well, that's what they'll do. So Sunak needs them to believe there isn't time to replace the leader, so the only thing they can do is unite behind him. So Sunak is effectively trying to push two opposite messages to the public and his MPs. But of course, what he tells his MPs is inevitably leaked to the public. So then he needs a firefighting operation. He keeps making these knee-jerk reactive statements in order to keep the public thinking the election's a long way off, whilst telling his MPs in conspiratorial whispers that actually it could happen at any time. I've been polishing the lectern this morning. It's a right old mess. Sunak, you know, he keeps trying to push the idea that Labour have got no plan, but Labour holds speeches all the time about what their plan is. Rachel Reeves has been invited to give the Mays lecture today, rather than Jeremy Hunt. Now, for those, this lecture is always given by economic policy makers, people in positions to decide economic or monetary policy, like, you know, it's heads of central banks, it's chancellors, sometimes prime ministers. Rishi Sunak spoke as Chancellor 2 years ago at this lecture. Now it's going to be Rachel Reeves as the Chancellor presumptive. You know, few believe that Sunak has a plan, even in his own party. I think his only plan has ever been to make himself even richer. And I still think not many Tory MPs are seeing that. I get the impression most think he's trying to be a political leader, he's just really bad at it. Which is a reasonable conclusion, because he is really bad at it. I just don't think it's the right conclusion. And tomorrow, Rishi Sunak is going to face a major test. He'll be meeting with Tory backbenchers at the 1922 committee. This will be the first such meeting since you've got a real feeling that Tory backbenchers had abandoned any hope for the general election. Up until now, they were thinking, oh, the polls will tighten, and they thought the budget would be the kickstart for that, and it hasn't. It's, you know, it's fallen flat. It's not even a dead cat bounce. Nothing at all. And I hope Keir Starmer uses PMQs tomorrow with that 1922 committee meeting in mind. So there's lots of things he could potentially ask questions about. It's the last PMQs before the Easter recess. I would think try and ask questions that will drive a wedge between Sunak and his backbenchers, if possible. Try and make PMQs as uncomfortable as possible for as many Tory MPs as possible. Get them in a really irritable mood, ready for their meeting with Rishi Sunak later on. I will be eagerly anticipating the leaks of what's said in tomorrow's, in the meeting tomorrow evening. But looking ahead to the future, if we now work on the assumption that Sunak is aiming for an autumn election because he wants another push at the India trade deal, I just don't see how you get any major period of stability before the summer. Once the summer recess happens, MPs go back to their constituencies for quite an extended break. Some will go on holiday for part of it. But what they won't be doing is meeting up and plotting, or most of them won't. I imagine they'll be too worried about spies in their WhatsApp groups to hold cloak and dagger discussions remotely. So once you get them away from Westminster, the plotting will probably go down a bit. There may be a bit of a hiatus even with the upcoming Easter recess, which kicks off next week. But while Parliament is sitting, I expect an almost daily attempt by Sunak to persuade the public that the election is very far away. But his MPs, that they don't have time to replace him because it's just around the corner. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.